Hey.
Hey, welcome back, guys.
Welcome
Back
back.
to First Draft Podcast. Your hosts, Fred, Blanca, and Chris. We're gonna continue what we started last week or last episode rather, and with the birth rate / fertility rate conundrum, and yeah, there's a little spin on the Reddit segment this week. Instead of AITA, we're going to do the Am I Overreacting, which is that provides a lot of entertainment. We were scrolling through earlier, a lot of funny issues going on. We're going to try and tackle one of these. Maybe we'll make this a recurring kind of thing. So yeah, Blanca, you want to take it away? Yeah,
Okay.
let's go.
Kick it off.
All right. So, the Am I Overreacting title is My Mom Voted for Trump, so I shut off her internet. Am I overreacting? Yeah. Okay, so she entered the U.S. illegally and didn't become a citizen until a few years ago. She entered with a young illegal child, me. We lived in a few different shelters for the first few years of my childhood, and when I went to school, I was a beneficiary of free lunch at school. My little brother also currently receives free lunch at school. We have a decent life now. I'm a grown adult and live out of the home, and she has remarried. But it baffles me that she would vote for someone like that considering her own past, let alone the healthcare rights of her two daughters. When I asked her why she voted that way, she said the border. The absolute hypocrisy left me speechless. Oh, and that someone told her he was an upstanding guy, quote unquote. So I told her that if she wanted to vote for someone who lacked empathy and believed everyone should pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, then she should do the same, and that I would no longer be paying for their internet, so they would need to figure it out. Let me reread that part. So I told her that if she wanted to vote for someone who lacked empathy and who believed everyone should pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, that she should do the same, and that I would no longer be paying for their internet, so they would need to figure it out. And then I shut it off. So anyway, did I overreact? I have it paused currently, but I'll likely cancel it once I get someone on the phone. Edit. Y'all, it's literally just internet. If she has the finances to be a Trump supporter, I'm sure she can afford her own internet. LOL. There is so much here. This could be the whole episode.
Really?
Yeah, you could. There's a lot.
Wow.
Well, let's try to keep it to our segment. I know there's a lot there, but
No, well, the comments too. If you look under the comments, yeah, I think a lot of them agreed with the original poster,
the OP.
the OP. Oh yeah, you did the right thing. I'm trying to figure out if is it a girl or a guy writing this?
Well, she said her two daughters, right?
Yeah, she did say her two daughters.
So that probably it's probably a her.
Okay.
And her, yeah.
But it looks like they have a brother too, right? Yeah. So there's probably three of them. But I wonder. She said that her mom entered the country with an illegal child. I'm assuming she's referring to herself.
She said herself. Yeah. She said an illegal child. Me. Okay. Let me read. Can I read at least one of these?
Yeah,
responses?
Please. Yeah.
So somebody said, cancel it. She should support herself fully since she thinks that other people should too. I can't stand when people want to pull the ladder up behind them.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Okay. Let me read another one. Absolutely agree. She benefited from support when she needed it, but now thinks no one else should. Hypocritical at best. Go NC, which is no contact if needed, and cancel the internet. Let her live by the standards she's preaching. Okay, and someone else said, wow. I cannot imagine voting for someone who would actively work against me, either now or my past struggles. Like what the actual F? I mean,
it's incredible.
Somebody said you did the right things. You did the right thing. Thoughts and prayers to her finding those bootstraps.
I like that. I like that.
I can't stand people that climb the ladder and then pull it up behind them.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I actually think this is hilarious! Exclamation point. Good for you! Exclamation point. Hopefully it doesn't affect your kid brother and her sister too much. I could see the story going in the petty revenge sub too. Priceless.
Incredible.
Wow.
So how do we feel
about
it?
Maybe you
Who
all
wants
should
to
start
start?
because woof.
No, start, Blanca. You seem
No, you all go. I really want
you seem
to.
very positioned about how you
Exactly.
feel.
I'm like that about everything. So yeah, you all can.
I mean, it's already loaded. We'll let Chris go since
Yeah,
you read it.
Chris.
All right, so sure. If you want to break it down fundamentally, I'd like to get everything down to its core. What is the core argument here? To what extent can you retaliate against somebody, especially a loved one, because they vote differently than you do? What is appropriate there?
Oh, that's
good.
Yeah, and so I think that's the ultimate. I think that's the more philosophical kind of underpinnings of this, and I think that's.
I like that.
I think that that would be the generalized statement here, the generalized argument. But she adds some extra little caveats, doesn't she? Because she herself, or he, whoever who do we?
I think we determined it's a she. Yeah.
So she herself and I think the mom was also an illegal immigrant. Is that right?
That's what.
So she's a product of the mom, who's a product of
illegal
bad policy from whenever, decades ago.
Well, illegal immigration occurs regardless of the policy. That's why it becomes illegal, right? Like
it does, yeah.
Like if it's an occurrence, that's not really a reflection of the policy. It's just, I guess, a breakage in. Well, I don't know, a workaround around the policy. I wouldn't even consider a breakage because it's not like she used any workarounds to get around the policy. Sorry to use the double, but she just broke the law, basically. It has nothing to do with the policy. Like the policy's in place and it's not bad policy.
Regardless of the president, it's in place. You can't come here illegally.
Well, let's consider this then. Machiavelli, he said that his grand kind of philosophical discovery, the ends justify the means. I mean, what if I don't really believe in that, but
the means justify the end, you mean?
No, he thinks that I'm sorry.
Oh, the
ends
Maybe
justify the means.
Yeah, the end just
if you're Machiavellian, then you would think maybe what if the mom broke the law to eventually get to a point where she could vote for someone to fix the law, and she did bad things and did things she shouldn't have done in the process. Do the ends justify the means? I think that's really the most fundamental thing of this whole entire situation, right?
Yeah, but the law necessarily won't change. Like the policy amongst the past, I mean, I've kind of delved into this week. Over the past 3 presidencies have not really changed. I mean, Trump brought about executive orders, but it didn't actually change the immigration policy, like in a legal sense, right?
Right.
Like executive orders only go so far. They're not actually legislation, right?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe. Yes. I guess.
They're not legislative.
Oh, no,
they're not legislation.
They're not law.
They're not
they're
law.
executive orders. That's why the next president can come
back
and cancel
rescind
it.
them.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if that's. I'm pretty sure they're equivalent.
Can you look that up for us?
No, they're not.
Can you look up the difference between legislation and executive orders?
They're not legislated at all.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
They're only in force until it gets canceled. You can't just cancel a law, but a executive order you can. When Biden came into office on his first day, I think he canceled 98 of
Trump's former executive orders, right?
Like that, just signed them off, done, because they were not.
And I think Trump did the same thing with the Obama administration too, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
It's usually what happens when the incumbent president gets deposed legally, then the other president comes in and kind of undoes a lot of their stuff through executive orders. Increasingly so, I've noticed over the
Otherwise,
past
we wouldn't have 3 branches of
years.
government and the checks and balances, because if the president can just override the legislative branch, then what do we need the legislative branch for? The
Exactly.
president can just make all the laws or
Right.
repeal all the laws.
Well,
right?
there's workarounds. There's workarounds too, and usually this is another topic, something I've been looking into. Maybe we'll discuss this in another segment.
Cool.
You have if you declare something a public health emergency, which now has been expanded to a lot of different things, you get carte blanche authority to pretty much do whatever you want to do. So if you said, let's say you were, hypothetically, if you were in control, your neighbor's bothering you, you could say, well, he's a public health emergency, so they need to be exiled to Bermuda or some other
You mean a
island or
president has not a regular
Hypothetically.
citizen, right? A regular citizen.
A president has carte blanche authority. You can pretty much do whatever you want to do with executive orders, and especially when you use like public health as a reason, because then you're talking about externalities. So if you can find a way to make your little pet issue an externality, like, oh, this affects someone else, then you legally can come in and be a tyrant if you want to. That's another topic for another day. This is I can't believe this.
So do you think she's overreacting? Because when
because of the
relationship,
relationship,
it down to the actual purpose of what she's asking.
Only because of the relationship, because it's her family.
Wow,
it's her mom. So there's a kind of deeper loyalty to your family that you would have rather than to the government, I think, or you should. And maybe that means your family. I mean, like The Godfather or Sopranos, right? Maybe that means they ask you to do things that you're not really supposed to be doing, but when conflicted between your family and a bigger authority, which is, I guess, the state, you may have an obligation to do what's best for the family. I don't know.
Nice take.
It's controversial, I suppose, but
it's a nice take.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think.
What do you think?
So I'm kind of agreeing with him, actually. I think the OP in principle, like if it was just a principle of what she's talking about, may be more correct in my mind.
Yeah.
But since you add that dynamic of family and what degree is your loyalty to your family?
Not even the dad, it's the mom.
Like,
people have really strong connections with their mothers.
Like, regardless of my family's political beliefs, I don't think I would alter the way I treated them or interacted with them. I just won't. I think I differ from a lot of different components of my family on political issues, but I would never treat them differently or take away something that we have in unison or do anything like that. So I think in a way she might be overreacting, but not because her principle or her belief in why she's reacting that way is wrong, but just because it's family. Like if it was a coworker or maybe a friend, I probably feel she'd be more justified. But the fact that it's like not even just family.
Why would she be paying internet for a coworker or a friend?
I mean, that would be the other underlying question that I would like to ask. But
what?
I mean, why should she be paying internet for her mom?
I'm asking you, why would she be paying? What would be the equivalent situation? Because she wouldn't be paying internet for a coworker or a friend. So what would be the equivalent situation?
Maybe she's in a supervisor position, and maybe one of the benefits, like maybe you work from home, and maybe you have to provide internet for your employee or cover costs.
You can't cancel that based on someone's political affiliation.
That's what I was going to add.
So what
actually,
would be like an equivalent? Where I think an equivalent with a coworker or a friend would be, oh, I found out you're voting for Trump, so we're not friends anymore.
That's a
better
example.
Yeah.
That's a better example. Yeah.
So do you think that's overreacting?
Oh, I do. I think that's overreacting for sure.
There's something else that's should be recognized here too. And this is where I'm also in a dilemma. Is the internet a luxury in this particular thing?
I mean, I'm a tech person, so I think the internet is
this particular scenario
is a utility at this point. I think you need to have it unless there's just a specific reason.
So then we can equate it to like a
electricity
shut off for water
or water.
Well, then that's pretty.
I mean, the only difference between that is you don't need internet to survive, right? Water is a little bit different.
Well, what like what if the mom works from home and uses internet?
Right.
Oh wow.
And it's like, hey, I cut off her lifeline.
Oh wow. Yeah.
because she voted for the
Yeah, but
the
we
mean
don't
orange
know
guy.
those
Yeah.
things.
We don't know that. We don't know
things.
that.
So as far as I'm trying to be
Like family loyalty overrides everything, I think.
and I'm
It should,
like
yeah.
not even thinking about family loyalty right now
Huh.
because that's something that that comes from our judgment. Like what should you do or shouldn't you do when it comes to your family? I'm looking into it like her state of mind, right?
Oh.
So, for example, two things come to mind, and I think we've all been in these situations, like as kids, either grown or minors towards our parents, we've been bratty towards them. All of us have.
You mean as adults or as kids?
As kids, and even in a different way, sometimes as adults,
Okay.
we can or we have been that way. A lot of people. It's easy to be like that towards the person that is going to give you unconditional love, if that makes sense. They're not going to go away, right? So
That's a good point.
your worst can come out with them. You're not right, but they're never going to abandon you. Like it's the easiest to do that with that person.
So it gives you more leeway to act petty?
Yes, to act petty.
Yeah.
So in this situation, like I don't want to throw daggers because like I can be, and Calvin, my son, who's our camera person, excellent camera person, editor, has seen me be like a spoiled brat and bratty like towards my mom, on occasion, right? And in this situation, I don't like that all these comments are telling her, first of all, she's asking the question because she doesn't feel comfortable with her decision. Am I overreacting? She's not comfortable with the decision.
You think she's looking for validation through the comments?
I don't think maybe, but I think more than anything, she's writing it for the simple fact that she doesn't feel comfortable with what she did. And so many people on here are like that one comment that we read, somebody said, go NC, no contact. Go no contact with your mother because she's voting for Trump, regardless of the backstory there, right? Her mom, as a U.S. citizen now, right, has the right to vote for whomever she wants.
That's facts.
Right? And I think it's very bratty of the daughter, very entitled, very selfish, very short-sighted to, if she doesn't want to pay for the internet, don't pay for the internet. If you're going to punish them, like who are you to punish someone for who they vote for?
Yeah, that's incorrect.
It's completely, it's out of line. It's disrespectful. It's just super petty. And, I feel like that she's looking for advice, but everyone is just affirming her. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Because so many people are copying each other. She climbed up the ladder and pulled it up behind her. And it's like, well, first of all, you don't know the reason why this mother thinks that way. Yes, she came here illegally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the situation that she could be voting for Trump is multiple. Like she said on here, there were a couple of reasons. But if she came over here illegally with her daughter and went through that treacherous path and got here, she may be like, no, we should not make it easier for people to think they can come over here because then they're going to put their lives and their kids in danger. And if I could do it over again, I wouldn't do it if I knew how dangerous it was because I came and her daughter may not know.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
We came this close to getting caught by the cartel. Like there's things her daughter maybe doesn't even know and her mom realized, like, if I could do this again, I wouldn't. If we could go back in time, maybe her mother's thinking, I wish that the law would have been more enforced, so I wouldn't think, oh well, when I get there, they'll just have to let me come across. I would think it's, even if you get there, they're not going to let you go. So I don't put myself in that situation because basically allowing people to come across the border easily and having that word out on the street is like dangling a piece of meat in front of a dog that hasn't eaten in 3 days and expecting them and doing it so high up that you know that the only way they can reach that is if they jump so high that they could possibly break their hip when they come back down. And it's cruel. That's why I like the lack of enforcement at the border is a cruel thing, because you're basically letting people, you're dangling this dream in front of people, but in order to get here, if you make it through the jungles of Panama and you make it past the cartel, then there's a good chance that we're not going to send you back. But that's cruel. It's cruel because when like necessity breeds, I don't know what the word is,
innovation, or
yeah, but that's not what I mean to say. Desperate people are gonna do desperate things, you know, and they could
desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yes,
that's one.
Yeah, so they're gonna hear there in their mind, no matter how much they hear it's dangerous, the cartel, it's never going to be as real as when you're actually there. And when you're there, it's too late. When like men with semi-automatics come and they surround you and you're like, oh crap, this is super real now, and there's nothing I can do to get out of it. You can't go backwards, you can't go forwards, you're stuck in a situation. So her mom like knows so much more than her. She actually was a grown adult and had all the emotions crossing through that path. She was, like she said, a child. She didn't know any better. In her mind, she was perfectly safe.
She thought she walked like a yellow brick road to paradise.
She has no idea. So for her to be just demonizing her mom, I get it. She has her own thoughts, and it can make you angry when you feel like, you know, especially when you're like have a strong opinion about things like I do, and I want like other people to like believe like me. But you know, we do have to really be careful and take a step back from ourselves, and it really entails that we be empathetic, you know, and really think about the other person's position, because the only way that that a topic that's hotly debated won't get you there is if you do have compassion for the other person, you know, and for where they could be coming from. And the best advice I ever received was from my Aunt Marlene. One of the best advice, because I was getting mad about something with my mom a few years ago, and she's like, Blanca, your mom's not trying to make you mad, she's just trying to live her life. Right. You know, and it's like, so sometimes we have to think about the other people, you know, like her mom is not voting for Trump to stick it to the daughter. Her mom is not voting for Trump because she wants to pull the ladder up. Her mom, like, she has to like really think deeper than, you know, the reasons that are making her initially mad, because there's always more that meets the eye. There's more, that's scratching the surface. There's so much more, that's the tip of the iceberg. And at the end of the day, I think that she should restore her mom's internet. And if she wants to cancel it because she wants to cancel it, that's totally fine, right? If she doesn't live there and she's just paying it, but don't do it based on this premise, right? Because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good because it's not right.
And also to add before we end this segment, because I think we can wrap it up here. I do agree with you. It's a real quick thing to add on to what you said at the beginning. I think by her making it, I mean, even though it's anonymous on Reddit, it's almost like she's virtue signaling about herself and her own politics rather than actually considering the situation from an empathetic point of view. And I think that's even more petty. Like, don't use this issue between you and your mom to like
get pats on the back
for your political choice.
That seems from strangers that you don't even know.
That seems very shallow. Like,
it seems very I have low self-esteem, so I need pats on the back from my internet friends.
That's the nature of every Reddit kind of AIO or AITA. So that's how they all are. I think what's more, the last thing, which we didn't really touch on, is the mom had already voted. Okay. I was going to say,
I guess she did the early voting or something.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I think there's actually some legal stuff going on here too, if she hadn't voted yet. like intimidation or something like that. Like if you vote for the
election
candidate, I don't
interference,
maybe
in a
interference
way?
or something. But I guess she already voted, so
Yeah, it
we
doesn't
won't
matter.
talk about
Yeah.
that. But
But I don't
you
even
guys
think
have
that
anything
would
else to
apply
add?
between families or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
That's
No.
if you're like, you know, that's different.
Yeah.
I
So,
think.
you
And
guys have anything
I
else?
think that maybe would apply like if you're in the poll. I don't know, standing in the poll lines or
We would
something.
have to look that up, but that's
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
our
But that's not-
topic.
no.
We could
Yeah.
maybe that's something we should bring up as a future topic.
Yeah. Wow.
That's good.
I like that.
So give us
Turn
feedback,
it back
guys.
on. Turn her
Yeah.
internet back on.
And give us feedback. Do you like the AITA or the AIO, or should we alter? Just let us know in the comments. And
Yeah.
like and subscribe, I guess. Yeah.
Boom. All right. Welcome back.
Let's
We're
go.
finishing up the segments. This is our kind of our little project we've been working on. Birth rates. We touched on it in episode 8, the last episode. We wanted to kind of make this a series. We're still playing with it, but it's a super important thing. That the reason why is because it's a gradual decline that you will start to notice it suddenly, but not anytime soon, which is why it's so easy to kind of overlook. But other people other than us have noticed there's some weird kind of things going on with population demographics, and so we just wanted to continue the exploration on that. So what we did last time, we went over reasons, antinatalism philosophy, and we're going to introduce an ethical component to this kind of question, which is, are we obligated to have children? Are we obligated to reproduce? Are we obligated to continue the species? However you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways. Should you have kids or should you not have kids? So this is going to be a little bit different than the last episode. And yeah, that's the question we kind of want to explore today. So yeah, I'll kick it over to you guys.
Excuse me. Can I point out Willow, how she is sleeping with her head face?
I know.
That's the cutest thing. Okay.
Yeah, we got
Just like-
so
We
we
have
haven't had our true
a
first
fourth-
guest, but we got
No, she might be our fourth
co-host.
She's our fourth co-host. Yeah, look
She's
at her.
just sleeping like with her face into
She
the...
is so cute. I cannot take it. Oh my goodness. I love her.
Well, Willow, maybe do you want to have some input on this?
Yeah.
Or
What do you think, Willow?
What's your thoughts?
yeah,
She's got to
okay.
ponder on it.
She's
Yeah.
got
It's a
She's
heavy
an-
topic.
She's an intellectual.
Yeah.
That's right.
She can't
that's right,
just like
yeah.
tell you what she thinks immediately. She has to, observe and think.
That's
Oh
so fun.
God, yeah, she's cute.
Precious.
But yeah, are we obligated to have kids? This is a weird. It's a obligation is not a word you hear nowadays very frequently. You don't hear obligation, responsibility, duty, these kind of things. These are kind of outdated words. This is something like a lot of our topics has been discussed in our group chat for our project we have First Draft.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a continuation of that, and yeah, we're gonna bring that to you guys. It's an interesting. I mean, we only have a little bit amount of time, but
Yeah.
I mean, obligations themselves seem so foreign. Do you have an obligation to do anything other than like keep yourself alive? That's another philosophical conversation. Do we have an obligation to procreate, which is kind of like a selfless act, because you sacrifice your autonomy, your time, your resources, your money for another human being. And why would you ever do that as a physical animal? Obviously we're physical and metaphysical, but why do we even do it in the first place? Why don't we just live our lives for ourselves?
I mean, people have kids selfishly too,
True,
so there's
indeed.
selfishness to both sides, but it's not necessarily like having kids selfishly is not necessarily bad unless you have like unless you're Octomom, Nadia Suleimani or something, and you're having a bunch of kids and making money off of them on reality TV. But
weren't they octuplets?
I mean, I guess.
Octomom.
I mean, and then
Or did she have 8
this is
individual kids?
No, she had 8 at once, and her stomach was like huge. That's yeah. Let me answer your question about I'm sorry. Your question was why would we have kids? Because it's selfless to have kids, you know? Like, because the reward of, in my opinion, this is just my opinion alone, the reward of having kids is much greater than the reward of living a life without having kids.
Right.
I like that answer.
So it seems, it is selfless, but you reap so much more. Like, life becomes so much richer, so much fuller, that that your recompense for that act is like a millionfold. You know, you take one step forward, and God takes 1,000 steps forward towards you by like giving you so many blessings that come with, you know. I want to say this, that go ahead.
I was gonna actually answer your question too.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to add something to hers real quick.
That's fine.
Because I wanted to introduce a term that I want to explore in our future podcast. She's saying that children provide leverage, that you put a little bit of, you cultivate them a little bit, and they provide you an amazing return on your original investment. So we're gonna, when we go into finances in the future, I'd like to explore this, but I think that's one great thing about them. They provide you immense amounts of leverage. Continue, Fred.
I never thought of that word when talking about children, but I could see what you're saying.
I was just going to kind of segue on both things that you all mentioned, is that even though it does seem selfless, like you don't get an immediate ROI or return on your investment, it's not necessarily tangible rewards that you get, right? It's like now, because you have a kid, it gives your life purpose and makes you strive to do better, which in turn you reincorporate that into your offspring, and it just creates this beautiful cycle of perpetual just enrichment in life, you know.
I mean, but it is tangible. You get an actual human that
no,
like
but
has
I'm saying
your...
there's a like a metaphysical reward too.
Yes.
What I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, you said it's not tangible. It is tangible because
I
you get
agree.
something to love that's right in front of you. That
I said it's not always tangible. The reward is what I said. I wasn't discounting what you said.
Okay, you said it's not tangible. You didn't say it's not.
I'm sorry.
I didn't think.
So let me clarify. There is another reward that's not always tangible that you can touch.
Yes.
There's a metaphysical reward that you can get. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. What's the metaphysical reward you said?
It gives your life as an adult purpose, and makes you enrich your own life, and like start to be like, it gives you a tangible, symbolic reason to like be a better human yourself, because the only way you can really give your kid a good life is if you start to live a more purposeful life. And so that's a great reward that a lot of people don't think about when they start talking about, well, it's going to cost me and I'm going to take less trips and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you hear a lot of that, and it's a little tiresome, because people, it's like, everything costs you, and you have to look at what are you getting in that trade. If you look at everything as a trade, then, like Thomas Sowell says, right, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. You trade, you sacrifice time, resources, you get something on the other end. That's the more secular kind of, I hate to say it, just looking at people as like commodities. Or labor or something, but that's kind of, I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Well, that's a good segue based on looking at the commodity part of it. Going back to this question, are we obligated to have children, as in reproduce? right?
And right now we're just talking about this.
People are a commodity to the to sustaining a population.
Yes.
So if we're going to think long term, and if we're going to think beyond ourselves and our life and our little bubble that we live, if we want to really think about the generations that are going to come after us, then that could give us a weight of responsibility in reproducing. Like we could start feeling the weight of responsibility to reproduce maybe a little bit. So I think we do have a responsibility to reproduce if we want to do our part to contribute to the furthering of the civilization, particularly the country you live in.
I was going to say, because that's what I wanted to clarify real quick, because I think we're asking this question within the parameters of the United States, not globally.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
no.
we are.
Within
just the
our
United
country.
States.
Yeah, because then we can
country.
get into a different topic and a different stratosphere when it comes to this question.
No, you're right about that. Yeah.
And I want to add on to that because economically, I think some of the way we figure out the actual value of our dollar is backed by how much labor we can provide. I hate to commodify humans like we were doing.
Well, on a macro level, you have to.
Yeah, but that becomes important to the strength of the economy within the U.S. If we don't have enough people to provide the labor to produce, then what is our dollar worth? And that's not really my answer to, I'm just trying to add to what he's saying.
No, of course, yeah.
From an economic level and like a real life application.
Well, let me ask you a question that my cousin posed to me because I kind of said the same thing to him. And he said with the advent of AI and automation,
we need less people.
Then you could actually have the same living standard with less people. So the population decline won't hurt it. Basically, it won't hurt us as badly.
I never thought about that.
Which is, I was like, maybe actually, because it depends the price you can make. I mean, I guess Elon just put out an event recently where he showcased these robot assistants, and he says they'll be in market or put out to market 2-3 years, $20,000 to $30,000 a pop, and they're basically human assistants. And it begs the question, like,
that's not a bad
price. Is it cheaper just to get one of those instead of having a kid?
I mean, not even having a kid. I would just have one to do all the. Then you could have even a bigger family if you had that helper.
That's true.
Like all your extra, like that's what I think about it. But
can these human robot assistants cook?
Yes.
And clean?
Yeah,
and
because it's basically
let my dogs out and bring them back. Woo, I'm getting one.
That's
sign
literally
me
what
up.
He said.
Sign me up.
He said they can walk the dog and
that's creepy,
fold laundry.
But I'm telling you right now, I will buy one.
So, yeah, it's that's
care
the thing
credit plan.
Cyberpunk, William Gibson, right? Like we're moving towards that direction.
It's another variable that's introduced that I don't really know if. I mean, that's the one thing that I don't know if the concerns about the birth rates with the introduction of that, maybe they're overblown, but I still don't think so because
it doesn't solve the ethical component that we're asking about.
Exactly,
about
there's
the
an ethical component,
and I think I glossed over it on our last segment about this. I'm a techno optimist. I'm like Elon Musk. I do think if there is a problematic environment that's created from this population decline, I think tech can solve it. And so I like the question that your cousin posed because I kind of agree with that. I think technology will solve almost all of our issues, but even this issue, it doesn't really answer the ethical component of
it doesn't
of should we or shouldn't we.
It's just practical.
But it will provide a solution should we find ourselves in that deficit of not having enough population. That's how I look at it.
So I would say that we are we obligated to reproduce?
I don't think any of us answered that question yet.
We didn't.
As
We didn't.
No, we haven't.
As much as we talk,
we're exploring it, and we still have time to explore. But I did want to give some kind of a definitive answer because I like your all's responses. We are. You only because you can, if you extrapolate it. So there's only really two answers to that question, right? No or yes. If you extrapolate that out, if everybody were to adopt the same mentality, let's just say the answer is no. Well, what if everybody thinks that? Then the species dies out.
But everyone can
but also, if everyone did adopt it, then maybe you have overpopulation or something like that. So somewhere in the middle, let's say, is ideal. But the thing is that you have all of our systems are maintained currently by humans, and so you need humans to maintain all this kind of stuff.
But that's not really an ethical component, right?
It's not. It's more practical. More practical.
I think the real question, which is what we're trying to answer or give our opinion about, maybe not answer the question, but answer it from our own perspective. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me give you.
Because we already talked about the commodities and the economy,
we did.
So we're asking.
Let me give a different,
like a philosophical standpoint.
Let me give a different answer then. Aristotle believed that to fulfill your telos, your purpose is to live a fulfilled life. And even he was a pagan. Even if you think that religion is silly, whatever, if you subscribe to a more material kind of worldview or materialistic kind of worldview, you would still conclude that your only purpose in life is to pass on your DNA. I mean, that's just evolutionary kind of biology. That's kind of your only purpose. I mean, it's very.
That's strange. I disagree with that.
I don't like it. I don't agree with that worldview. But even if you reject a religious worldview, then that would be your conclusion. If you believe in a hyper scientific.
Was that his conclusion, or are you saying that you should draw a conclusion from what he states?
I think
did he actually state that?
Aristotle's conclusion, it's been a while.
Was just to live a fulfilled life, you said, or an enriched. What was the exact wording? Clarify.
I think it was it's been years. I think it was a fulfilled life, and fulfillment comes from fulfilling your purpose, your telos, and even if you're not religious, I mean, religious people would say, Christians would say, your purpose is to know and understand God, right? To know and love God, to know and love Jesus. At least in the West, and at least like I said, in a Christian worldview. Aristotle was an atheist, a pagan, but he even concluded, because he was so rational, he's like, and it's kind of brilliant because he got to a selfless kind of understanding. He's like, even if you don't believe in a deity, you would still have an obligation basically to have a family. That's kind of what he.
But that's not what he said, though. So I think you're drawing your own conclusion, which I'm not saying that your conclusion is incorrect, but you're misquoting his actual.
I didn't say I was quoting. I'm saying I'm summarizing.
You're summarizing his actual conclusion, and that's. I don't know. I don't draw the same conclusion from that.
Okay. Well.
And I don't think you've proved that. But if that's your answer and that's how you feel, like subjectively, I'm okay with that. But I don't know how you're saying that that's an objective answer. I don't find that to be objective. I don't know.
Well, it's actually in line with, that's what even science, which is objective, would say too. They would say your only purpose is to pass on your genetic material.
Not always, because if you believe in evolution, you can pass down defective traits. But science doesn't talk
about purpose.
Science does talk about purpose. It talks about
but you could pass on defective and recessive traits, which could hurt future generations.
Talks about philosophical.
So
no, science only discusses what is and what not what.
But you said science does talk about purpose.
Yeah, just like if you were to, the purpose of the plant or the purpose of the cat or the dog is to.
But
its ultimate purpose is to pass on its genetic material. Is to have offspring.
I see what you're saying.
That's it. I mean, it's very kind of bland and what's the word? Non-emotional.
You don't mean purpose as in like life, existential thought
Mhm.
I don't mean
philosophy,
metaphysically.
you're talking about purpose as in biologically. Or,
Yes. So even
okay.
if you were to
I would agree more with that.
even if you were to reject the religious worldview, you would still come to the conclusion.
Or philosophical worldview. You know, everything's not always defined through religion.
Right. Just rejecting the philosophical worldview and
Philosophy is just the love of wisdom and or how to think. I mean, it's very, very vague. I mean, yeah, sure. But the yeah, if you even if you were to reject all that, you would still come to the conclusion that your only purpose is to, and it's a bleak existence if that's all you think you're designed to do. And that's probably why you have people out here having, like, 10 families and 50 kids, whatever, shoddy low, whatever he, that's how you get that. But that would be, I mean, according to a secular worldview, he would be fulfilling his purpose by having as many kids as possible.
But is that the
different-
right thing to do? Which I think is the nature of the question.
I don't think it is.
no, it's not. Is that the nature of the question? Oh,
Are we
that is. Are
obligated?
we
Yeah,
obligated?
Are we
Yeah.
obligated?
Are we obligated to have kids?
I mean, we're obviously not legally obligated.
Right.
We're not. Anything else is subjective to the answer of the question,
You think so?
And I think so. Morally, are we morally obligated? I don't even think we're morally obligated. Because from a Christian opinion, Christianity really elevates, I think that's the right word to use, speaks highly of singleness, lifetime singleness. Like, I think they're called eunuchs or something in scripture, where these are people that have decided to not get married. And in scripture, Apostle Paul talks about them as these people can dedicate and devote their lives to God, to the service of God, to serving God in different ways. And that is a really high calling. So I do think
Aquinas did that.
I do think yes. And I'm not even talking about monks, and I'm not talking about priests.
That's what I was about to go into.
I'm not talking about monks or priests. I'm talking about people that, for some reason or another, they are not very maybe interested in a relationship, or they're not relationship people, whatever that means, or they didn't like.
You can still reproduce and not be in a relationship, right?
That's true. But I guess my point of that is, what I'm saying is that I don't think scripture elevates morally, answering the question morally, are we morally obligated? If I, as a Christian, were to answer that question based on like my belief system, if scripture doesn't make marriage superior, right? More superior than singleness, I don't think it morally obligates us, because also scripture says we shouldn't live in fornication. So obviously a single person that scripture elevates wouldn't be having sex and having kids,
But at the same, you would live a consecrated singlehood life.
Consecrated singlehood life, and that is elevated in scripture. So from God's point of view, I don't think it's not a sin. I don't think it's a sin to not have kids and not reproduce.
And even to generalize and back up off from the
religion,
the religious aspect, it's not ethically wrong or morally wrong either. I don't. And then I was going to dial back into what you said. I mean, even Catholicism, which I know you have a great understanding about, like the highest order of, or the highest of the religious orders, is to be a priest or a nun, and like.
But that's for only certain individuals. That's a calling, not for the main population.
But I'm saying, if you were to make the argument that God, the God of Christianity, or God in general, requires you to have kids, that would be a contradiction in that particular faith. Because if that was obligatory, then why do the priests and the nuns not have children? And then I was going to dial it even back. There are other world religions, and that's why I was going into monkhood and things like that. Even when you talk about Buddhism, the monks, they also live a life of deprived of having
Devoid of.
Celibacy.
celibacy, you
Yeah.
know. And so there must be some spiritual component to doing the opposite of reproduction that other philosophical and schools of thought practice. So yeah,
Well, okay.
I don't think we're ethically or morally. I mean, I'm gonna answer it. I mean, I got a little technical. Sorry, guys. I don't think we're morally, religiously, ethically required or obligated to reproduce. I don't.
Let me take a step back from what I said, because also we are social creatures, right?
Yeah.
I
Yes,
believe
yeah.
we are created,
Yes.
and we thrive in community, right? We thrive in
Yes.
community. So most people are going to join with other people.
Sure.
Okay, so scripture does say, God knowing that does say, be fruitful and multiply,
Okay, I get
you
that.
know? So I still don't think it's wrong not to. Maybe it's wrong if you're talking about the population collapse and all that. But morally, I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I just think that it's not as, it's a little sad
Well, let me ask. I actually wanted to challenge.
to not have kids.
I'd like to challenge Fred on this.
Let's go.
Do you think that excuse me. Sorry, I'm looking at the
Cut this
notes
out.
here.
Like,
Yeah.
just keep rolling. But
Just cut it. Yeah.
Maybe cut this whole segment out.
No. The segment's fine. The segment's fine.
Are we
I'm trying
doing
to, I'm
good?
trying to
the
formulate my.
segment's fine.
It
Yeah.
is?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
It's been continuous
Yeah.
dialogue and everything.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, well then cut that out.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. The.
You said, good.
Sorry. Yeah. I think I'm starting to see what Blanca's talking about. Kind of
Sorry.
losing your train of thought. It's been happening all weekend for me. I did want to challenge you on one thing, is that the shit. Yeah, I might have to cut that out. Whatever, that's fine. Yeah, keep rolling, I suppose, and then we'll. It was.
Challenge it. Like,
He
Yes.
doesn't remember what it is.
Yeah, there was God. There's like so many thoughts in my head. I was just trying to formulate it, and I lost it.
simplify it. Just be blunt, or just like, what are you holding up on? What are you hung up on?
It was the ethical thing, and shit. I can't recall. Just take over. Sorry.
I can't. I bounced it back to you, and
I
like,
know.
so you got to come up with some type of transition.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the it's a little bit of a side thing. Obviously, we can reproduce, but no, that's not good. I was going to talk about the raising of the children, but that's going to be that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, but that's part of it. It's
Yeah.
good.
Because you can obviously have a bunch of kids who, if they're not socialized correctly and educated correctly, then they can end up being liabilities for society rather than assets. Which is a.
Yeah, and then there's a component too. Like, I know people that have children to sell them. Like, is it good to have, like the whole human trafficking thing? I mean, I'm not trying to get too far down a rabbit hole, but there are people that make contractual. I mean, you can look this. I actually was just doing a little bit of research, not for this topic, but
Well, we're definitely not talking about those people.
no, I know, but I'm
Who
saying,
have
like, but if we're
children.
just talking about the purpose of should we ethically reproduce, aren't there instances where the act of reproduction could be unethical?
Should we reproduce, assuming that we're talking about normal
Okay.
people?
Well, but I've seen movements from the conservative standpoint that say that we're obligated and like, even though I believe in techno optimism and like Elon Musk is like that, like he has a bunch of kids, and
He does, yeah.
I've heard that like he doesn't like his daughters come out, and you can look this up. I don't know everything she said, but she said that he was a horrible father. He abandoned her, didn't parent her, and
Yeah, but she's also mad that he's
a
conservative. No.
Oh, so maybe it's like our earlier segment. She's trying to be petty and back her political
I think
differences.
she's transgender and she's mad that he's on Trump's side.
Oh, okay.
But I will say this: Elon does have 11 kids.
Mm-hmm.
He just bought like a $35 million compound in Texas for 2 of his babies' mothers and his 11 kids. I don't think. Let me pass judgment on that. Okay.
Really? Let me hear this.
He is populating the earth, be fruitful and multiply, but it's not just be fruitful and multiply in any disordered way.
That's
what we're trying to get to.
And
yes.
The thing is that it's disordered.
It's disordered.
He's not present, right? He has 3 babies' mothers. Okay, maybe they were ex-wives, but these are disruptions to your kids. They are. It's not a core family. He's making them a core family by putting him into this $35 million compound. I guess one of the moms was like, "Forget that, I'm not doing it."
Mm-hmm.
But it almost starts sounding like sister wives. It's not. But regardless, it's not a mom, a dad, the kids, and they are there, both of them raising their kids together.
What is sister wives?
The dad going off to.
Well, it's Mormonism to me, to be more
Mormons,
specific.
The poly, what is it?
It's polygamy, and to be even more specific.
Oh,
it's
okay, I got
polygyny,
right.
Because it's
one
man with multiple
wives. Okay, continue. Sorry, Blanca.
So yeah, the same with Nick Cannon. He has like 11 kids also, and just supporting them financially is not what we're talking about. That's not enough. That's not near enough.
No,
it's not near enough. So no, I think it has to be an ordered type of being fruitful and multiplying, because actually raising, not just, I'm sure Elon Musk kids are not going to become criminals, right? But let's say.
I mean, my favorite football coach, and he's a multimillionaire. His sons became degenerates, and he was actually a good father and was present and provided them with every financial opportunity. I mean, one of them ended up
let me not say
going
I'm
off
sure.
on the deep end.
That's crazy. Let me not say I'm sure, but let's assume they're not going to become criminals, right?
So a net negative to society is what you're trying to say.
Yes, but it doesn't exactly. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be whole, fruitful human beings with a strong identity. It's having a father in the home, and second best as part of your life, if he's not in the home, is essential. And as far as the science, I mean, this is just what I've read and heard, that fathers, especially in the younger kids, are even more essential than the mother to their sense of identity and establishing that early on. I don't know if it's maybe to the age of 10 or something, but if we're going to choose what is going to give a child and set them up for future success, right? As far as a human being, if you had to choose, it's the father. It's the father, and I don't disagree with that. So,
Yeah, I mean, to even extrapolate what you're saying outside of Elon Musk and the statistics, but I mean, I guess that's why I'm so strongly opinionated about should we not, like, there's an extra component about just the actual reproduction process and having the ability to replicate. Like, you have to also be a parent. You can't just go through the act of, like, because then you get into even more slippery slopes of ethical questions, like
you do, yeah.
So maybe there's a better question, but yeah, that's why I say I don't think we're spiritually, religiously, ethically, morally obligated to have children. And I mean, there's another part to that question, or another part to my answer. We are all individuals, and I think it's up to each individual to make that choice. Just like how I believe about religion. I believe in religious liberty, and like I believe in all liberty. I'm not a libertarian. I guess sometimes I can kind of swing that way, but it is an individual choice as long as you are not adding a net negative to society or others' individual experiences.
That's a good point too, because I would actually,
I've heard conservatives criticize young people that are financially, physically, mentally / spiritually eligible to have children, and they like knock their lifestyle, and I think I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
I do have something, maybe a little controversial to say, and I understand this back in the day. People that become really successful, a lot of times you hear them say, "Well, I really want to shout out my mom because growing up, she had 3 jobs and like she was gone from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and like but she was trying to put food on the table." Okay, let's say I don't understand back in the day how long ago that was, and that was the case. But if any parents have been doing that for the past 30 years here in the United States anyway, that's a fail. That's not a good thing as a
Oh
mom
wow, I
to
thought you were going to
be
say the
working
opposite.
3 jobs and like that's you're escaping your
Parenthood.
responsibility, because you can't tell me there was not I'm not saying everyone, there's exceptions, right?
Right.
But I will never believe that you have to work 3 jobs, neglect your kids, get up at 5 in the morning at the crack of dawn, go to work, come back, go change, go to another job, come back, and then on the weekends do another job. No, something was wrong. Either you were trying to escape your responsibilities as a parent, you didn't realize how important that was.
I never thought
It's
about it
not
like
something
that.
to be praised to the point where if right now, if I see somebody saying that as a younger person, like let's say someone under 30, I'm just like I cringe and I'm like, dude, you're calling your mom out right now. It's not a good thing what she did. She left you and your sister, and you all had to raise yourselves. And on top, like it's not like she just left you with your all's dad, who like no one was there. Your dad wasn't there, and then she moved. She left the picture, but it's hard to see that she left the picture because she's being this martyr who's working. But it's like, no, that cannot be. That can, in some situations, yes, and I don't know what those situations are, but I'm sure that are. But in most situations, that's not virtuous.
And I'm going to tie that back to pop culture, and maybe I don't know. I know we're always heavy with philosophy, but I'm going to tie this back to pop culture. The rapper Julio Fulio, who was killed, um, his mom was interviewed, and she said what you said. She was like, I did the best for him. Like I worked 3 jobs. I was a RN, and like I provided him this lifestyle, and he just chose to make his own choices. And it's like, well, hold on. Yeah, you financially supported him, but what about from a moral level or ethical level? I mean, he's out here killing people, and then in that his decisions caused him to get killed. Dude, she even got shot at because of the decisions that he was making. So there's more than just a financial support system that you have to provide for your child that creates the net gain and or the net negative to society. So I never thought about it until you just brought that. I agree with you.
It's almost virtue. It's hardcore virtue.
I agree with you on that.
And it's sad.
That's good.
And like, a lot of those kids can't raise themselves.
Facts.
Kids need love. Kids need someone to talk to them. Kids need their parents to discipline them, to have expectations of them, to know that there are repercussions for things. Kids need to be annoyed because at times they need to be happy with their parents. They need to be annoyed by their parents because that means that you are molding them, and you are being like put through the fire as a child, and it's going to be painful, and then it's going to be great, and then it's going to be painful again and great. But if that all that takes a lot of work, and if you're not doing those things, then that child is not being shaped, that child is not being formed, and that child is his or her own parent, and they have no idea what they're doing, so they're gonna, like, as human beings, they're gonna take the road that has less, the easiest road, and the easiest road is usually not the best one. So yeah,
And
I
that can
mean,
lead us to another question, is which is something, it's kind of the opposite of our question now. Maybe we can talk about this in the next segment. We've talked about, are there reasons where, like, is there an ethical plus to people choosing to not have children? Like, if they're not the most
that's a great
fit.
question for the next one.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
can you will you write that down so we don't?
Because that's the flip side of this topic that me and
Is
him
there,
have discussed in the
is
past.
there a net plus to choosing not to if you're not, if you don't feel like you would be? Because there are people who like just detest the thought of being a parent.
Yeah.
Person. But I want to go back to the Julio of mom. How can she not realize what she's saying?
Dude,
Like,
she acts
how
like
does
she acts like she's,
like
I don't know,
she
you
did
gotta,
everything she could? How could
it's
she not
crazy.
realize that what you're saying is like
A fail, like you said. It's a
fail.
fail.
It's a fail. She can't hear herself like that. I'm gonna tell you what I think that is. I think that is a narcissistic mindset. A
Oh,
narcissist
wow.
has no self realization. They can't see themselves in the mirror. Metaphorically speaking,
Right.
they have no realization of self.
Right.
It's distorted. So
I completely agree with you. Completely
that
agree with
that's
you.
why, and that's why also I'm sure she suffers because her son is gone, but her suffering is also limited because
She's not acknowledging the mistakes that she made that led to this outcome.
No, because if she did acknowledge it, I don't even know if she can handle that. I don't think she could. I think her mind is gonna protect her from it at this point. She has to be a narcissist to say those things and not realize how much you contributed to his downfall and where he ended up in life, you know?
And contributed to other people's downfalls. Like, it was I hate to say this, but not just the fact that she had a child, right? But the decisions that she made after she had a child led to a net negative to society.
Yeah, yeah, because he got into crime. Before he died, he wasn't contributing to society.
No.
I mean, he became famous, I guess, as a rapper, but
That's just capitalistic ventures, though, you know.
right, not good,
spiritually
not
or
good,
ethically or
not
morally.
good for like for the good of others.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, man, that's this topic is so fascinating because it underpins every other topic in society. You have to have human capital for everything else, and you have to understand humans. You have to understand labor. I mean, it's a multi-factor issue. It needs a lot of time to understand it, and we will be exploring that here for hopefully at least for the next episode, maybe for another episode. So we'll finish this up next time.
We're gonna have a continuing segment, guys. So
yeah.
Like and subscribe as usual, and we're gonna carry on this topic probably for one more segment in our series. Maybe if we get more feedback or something, maybe do another one, or if we come up with another I don't know, question. You know, I think I like this. I like this question process.
Thank you, Chris. That's really good.
Oh yeah. That's sure. Cool. Well, hey, yeah. First draft signing off. We'll see you guys next time.
Let's go.